I would consider myself somewhat of a music nerd. This is my 4th year using Last.fm, which is an app that tracks your listening stats and habits, and I've been naturally trying to listen to more and more music and get into different genres. If you go ahead and look at my top 10 artists of all time, you'd quickly begin to notice that all of these artists are pretty mainstream and honestly pretty talented. However, more than half of these I cannot stand listening to anymore, which you'd probably think is pretty weird. You see, I used to stand by this idea of separating the art from the artist, which in most cases kind of works and has worked for me for quite some time. I mean, if you go ahead and look at my Spotify Wrapped from the last 2 years, you'd find that Kanye West is on there in the top 2, and Kanye has been a controversial figure for as long as I can remember. So what gives? Why have I randomly decided to take a stance against listening to these artists? It's not like I hate the music. Hours upon hours of my life were spent listening to these people's art. Well, a certain topic has been made very prevalent since October 7th. I won't say too much just in case of YouTube censorship, but it has kind of opened up my eyes and shown the true colours of some artists. Believe it or not, I used to be a massive Swiftie, and I was for quite a long time. I've been listening to her ever since Evermore dropped, which was over 3 years ago now, and I'd pretty much done a deep dive into her entire discography and found myself quite enjoying her music. I'd often join spaces with a lot of other Swifties like Twitter and Discord servers, and I like that sense of community. Taylor recently dropped an album, The Tortured Poets Department, but I took a stance and I didn't stream it at all. She's been my top artist for over 3 years, and she still is, but I can't stand her as a person anymore, and I feel like streaming her music is directly supporting her and would be counterproductive. I can't keep using separating art from artist as an obvious excuse to contribute to supporting people I disagree with, and I can't believe it's taken me such a long time to grasp that. The reasons I dislike Taylor now, despite being such a massive fan, isn't really important, but if you wanted a small rundown, it would be a mixture of things like her carbon footprint, or her dating scum like Matty Healy, or just staying absolutely silent over one of the biggest issues in our world right now, despite being a quote-unquote activist and having such an influential and large platform. I mean, she literally got 35,000 people in the US to register to vote from a single Instagram story. That is insane power, and it's not being used in a more impactful way. Of course, at the end of the day, Taylor Swift doesn't owe us anything, but it's just made me realize she's a selfish billionaire and will only speak up about issues if they personally affect her. You could go ahead and say, oh boo-hoo, however will she sleep at night now that she's lost a supporter? And you'd be right, me personally boycotting her music doesn't impact her in any way, but that's not the point. It's just me taking a stance and realizing artists are real people and are heavily flawed just like us, and shouldn't be blindlessly defended just because they make good music and we perceive them as idols. And I've seen Swifties do this. Like the previous examples I mentioned, Swifties will go to hell and back just to defend her. Oh, Taylor has high carbon emissions? Well, so do all of these other celebrities. Call them out as well. Why are we singling out Taylor? Oh, she dated Matty Healy. She probably didn't know about all the terrible things he's done and said. She's so busy she probably didn't have time to do the research. She just broke up with Joe Alwyn. This is just a rebound for her, guys. Let's be considerate. She's done so much for Palestine. She and Selena Gomez attended Rami Youssef's comedy show, where all proceeds were donated to humanitarian relief in Gaza. Let's not give him any of the credit for that though. Look at how pro-Palestinian Taylor is. Like, what are we actually doing here? Why are we blindlessly defending these people and making up narratives to try and convince ourselves their intentions are pure? You might like their music and felt a personal connection to them, and so for that reason you're trying to paint them as someone who can do no harm. But there's nothing wrong with calling out your favourites. You're not doing a disservice to anybody. You're being a human with autonomy, rather than someone who goes with the crowd, and that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing, and a lot of stan culture needs to start moving away from this hive mentality. I know I've kind of singled out Taylor Swift and Swifties, but this is an issue across all stan cultures, and it's beginning to get very concerning. The same sort of stuff can be said about Lana Del Rey, who is my second most streamed artist of all time. Over these last couple of months, I've just realized Lana Del Rey is not a good person, and I don't know why I ever considered the fact that she might be. It seems that she's always in some controversy and is seen doing some questionable things, but of course her cult loves her aura and aesthetics so much they'll choose to ignore it, or even worse, defend it to make it seem like Lana Del Rey wasn't intending to make it seem that way. Like the signing of the letter thanking Biden. Very disappointing. Or the mesh mask stuff, or even question for the culture, a very odd statement that I used to brush over a lot and say, guys, you just don't know Lana like I do. I knew what she meant. She's just misunderstood. Don't you get it? Even Kanye West, who is my third most streamed artist. This is just embarrassing at this point. It's so funny because I was the most into Kanye after the whole rant he went on. And you all know which one, I don't even have to say it. Again, that was just me trying to send a message reinforcing, oh, but I can separate art from the artist. I don't care what Kanye's personal opinion on topics are, his music is good. He made Ghost Town, he made Hold My Liquor, he made Graduation. Yeah, I was insufferable. I still haven't streamed that album with Ty Dolla $ign. I don't even remember the name of it and I don't really care to. You know, I can keep going. This is a common trend with so many artists, it's unbelievable. But I can't do it anymore. I simply can't. Music is such a raw and personal art form, it gets kind of hard to continue lying to myself and thinking I can do this. I'm not saying that you should stop listening to the music. If you can separate art from the artist, then that's good for you. I'm not here to police that. I just think that we should stop the idolizing and thinking these people are picture perfect, because realistically, they don't know you or care about you, and it's a harsh reality that needs to be accepted. The levels of parasocialism I'm seeing on Stan Twitter right now is incredibly unhealthy and concerning. The amount of times I've seen people tweet stuff like, I would take a bullet for this artist, or something extreme along those lines, or whenever anyone critiques their favourites, they'll pull the, they make more money and are more successful than you ever will be card, essentially flexing someone else's wallet. Is that not strange? I've also seen a lot of people use support for Palestine as a gotcha moment to win in Stan Wars, or something so incredibly out of touch and insignificant, and saying stuff like, well, my favourite artist did this and yours didn't. It's like, I don't want to be that guy to say go outside or whatever, but like, real world issues, especially ones that are so serious like this one, shouldn't be treated in such a disgusting way. It's just performative and it really does suck. All of the above I was guilty of doing too, but I never stopped to think why. Why was I doing all of this? Was it to gain validation from friends and other people in that community? Was it to feel like I was a part of something? Now that I think about it, I don't have a clear answer because, let's be real, I wasn't gaining anything. It literally didn't contribute to my life in any meaningful way, and being so involved in these communities pushed the idea that this is normal. It's not. I don't even want to say that, oh, it's just a phase, people grow out of it, blah blah blah, which you know might be true in some cases, but I'm seeing like Swifties who are in their 30s on Stan Twitter. It's just not right. I feel like if it was just a phase, I would have left a while ago, but the reality is October 7th onwards was when I opened up my eyes and drew the line. And you can say I should have drawn that line way earlier with how bad some of these artists' past controversies have been, and you'd be right. But I think it's good I've finally taken initiative and broken out of that matrix sooner rather than later. Anyway, I feel like I've gone on a little too long. This was always going to be a wishy-washy topic, and there's no right or wrong answer. Like I said before, if you believe you can separate the art from the artist, then go ahead, I'm not stopping you. This is morally ambiguous. What you believe is correct and the right stance to take is entirely subjective and opens a whole new philosophical can of worms, which I don't feel like I'm educated enough to discuss. What I do want you to take away from this video though, is that if you are a part of a stan culture, what do you gain from it? Why do you dedicate so much of your time and energy into supporting a person who doesn't acknowledge you? I want you to really give that a deep thought, and if you can't come up with a valid and strong reasoning for that, I think it's best you move away from that lifestyle, because it's doing way more harm than it is good.